a substitution, it's kind of like, well, it isn't. It's kind of like how to understand a C7 sus chord. And so I thought that's a good place to start, because you usually substitute the fourth for the third, or the third for the 11th, however you want to look at it. So the first chord that maybe we didn't cover is a C sus, or any sus. And it's usually just the tonic note with the fourth added. Whoop, so that wasn't it. So here's a C, and then you add the fourth. You substitute the third, or the fourth for the third, rather. And you always get that nice little pull down, right? Here's a common, right? So it's just the diatonic chord, and you add the fourth. You substitute the fourth degree of the scale. If we're in C, it's a C. And then it's an F and a G, and that's the actual voicing on the guitar, only it sounds an octave lower. And then it usually resolves to this. It sets up that C, E, and G. It sets up that pull from the fourth degree of the scale down, that there. Right, okay. So you'll see C, and then that's C sus. Sometimes it's written C sus 4. This is how they C sus 4, C sus. So with triads, let's do one more. You'll see this, everyone. C add. This isn't really a sub, but it's kind of an add, they say, and it maintains its one quality, and it's a C add 9 where they put a D. Now on guitar, it's usually voiced like, yeah, it's voiced like that. A lot of times, C, E, G, and then they add the 9, and to add more dissonance, you can, it's kind of a pleasant dissonance, as they put the E on top there, and that's C add 9, and it keeps its tonic quality, because it doesn't have the B flat or the B major. Well, the B major, it would have tonic quality, but that's a little bit, that's 4-part harmony. This is only just triadic harmony, and you hear that a lot. It's a really pretty sound. Some players play it like this. Well, they substitute the 9 for 3. Most players just take one of the root notes and move it to 9, which kind of keeps that major quality intact. Although this here, you kind of imply the C or the E, the third in it, that it is major. It doesn't sound minor at all, at least to me. And then you get this nice fourth on the top. So anyway, so those are the two that triads that probably are pretty important to understand, kind of substituting notes. And we'll get to substituting chords, but let's talk about the notes. The other one is the C7 sus. Sometimes C7 sus it's called, C7 sus 4. What else do they call it? C11. So what that is now that's that when it's a C7, it functions as the 5 chord in F, where you get that pull to the 1. But again, it's always the same thing with sus 4 chords. You always substitute the third of the chord for the fourth. You always throw that fourth in. So with this one, it's voiced on guitar. You can voice it like this. You have an open G. No, you have a B flat, I'm sorry. Then they usually put the B flat in it. And again, it's in the key signature here, but I'll write it in, then have an open E. It's a real common way to voice it on guitar. Oh, I forgot the C. So you have C, F, B flat, C, and then an E. It's a real common way to voice it. And then they resolve a lot of times the F will go to E, and it just gives it it just resolves to a regular C7. The other way to write it is some people write it C7 sus4. They both probably mean the same thing. C11, usually they mean that to try to get the sus a little bit higher, but you always substitute the 3 for 4. Rarely does a composer or an arranger want the third in with the 11th. Now the 11th is, you're supposed to stack the notes in third, and you go 1, 3, 5, 7. The difference with the 11 usually is they want the 9th in there. So if we substitute the 4 for 3, then we get a C, F, B flat, and then D, which is the 9th. Now, usually when you're playing guitar, so that could be a C11. It has some other ways to think about it. You usually substitute the 1 will move to 9. So you get the 9th in there. So you can actually call this 11. I mean, look, you could call this C9 sus4, I guess, too, since the F isn't rooted on top. But it's really, it's probably a moot point, It's got a 4th in it, it's suspended, and you have a 9th. Some people call it C11, some people call it C9 sus4. You can call it C7 sus4 with an added 9th, whatever you want to. If they want to get that picky about voicings, they'll write the notes out and say play these notes rather than use chord symbols. But anyway, so that's that. Another way that they do indicate this, especially on chord charts, is they'll call this a B flat triad with a C on the bass. So, and again, it functions the same way. It's 5/7 of 1. So you have a B flat, right? I think that's on the line, and then a D, and then an F, and they'll put a C in the bass, and that's a real common thing for guitar players. Here's the B flat triad. It still functions as a 5, and it has the upper structure of the dominant chord with the 7th that makes it dominant, and then it adds the 9th with D, and then it adds the 11 or sus4, however you want to think of it, and you get that sound. Now some folks like to resolve that to a simple chord. I think it fits going to some sort of 4-part harmony, but it's a matter of taste, Now, if you go like this, where you flat the 9th and resolve the root, then I think definitely it needs to go to a 4-part harmony. But I mean, it's just a matter of taste. It's a real common mood. So C, B flat with a C in the bass, and you just figure that out. Like it's always the same thing. It's the 5 of where you're going to. Like if you're in the key of G, okay. So the C with a D in the bass would give you the same, a more tense 5 chord with that sus in it. That there. So those are a couple things I wanted to just kind of put in there. How to substitute notes for chords. It's kind of a good way to do it. So that covers the sus. I missed the 13th. 13th is just add the note 13 notes above the root, and it has to be a dominant. To call it a 13th, it's a dominant chord. See, the thing is C7 is the dominant chord. You can, depending upon the context, you can throw a C9th in it, substitute a C9th for a C7, or you can throw a C13th in there. Again, you have to use taste. I mean, sometimes it doesn't really quite fit the song. Like, you know, if you're playing a 1-4-5, you know, harmonically simple song, you don't want to probably throw a C13 in there and then go back to just an F triad. Well, I guess you could. You know, you got to make sure it fits the genre of what you're playing so that it's not in bad taste, just to make a complex chord to be complex. Or add tension just to add it. So you can see that has the root, the third, the seventh, the ninth, and the 13th. Notice the 11th isn't in there. Now, again, if you want to make it a C suspended 13th, you just move the E to F. So that could be a C13 suspended. You could call that a C11th because without, and again, the E moves to the F. C11 with an added 13th, you may see it. I don't, you know, C13 works. C13 sus is probably the easiest or most correct way to say it. So anyway, so that's that. You'll see that. You'll see. I think we covered this. Did we do the add 9? Yeah, C add 9. C add 9 is just when you just add a 9 to the root. If I covered that, forgive me, but I'll write it. Again, it just keeps the tonic quality of the note C, E, G, and then add the 9 for 1. Now the thing about this is, don't forget, is it's not a dominant sounding chord. It functions as the 1 chord. The other, you know, when you get into looking at different chord structures that fit the 1, you can see that if you harmonize the C major 7th triad with 4 parts, you'll see that the upper structure of it is an E minor triad, E, G, and B right here. So consequently, if you go up to E minor, a lot of guys like to hear what it sounds like if you just substitute an E minor chord for the 1 chord. Or if you take it a little bit further, you can make it E minor 7. Now if you add that D to a C chord, what's that become? Well, it becomes a C major 9th. It's an important distinction, by the way, is don't mix up a C9 with a C major 9. The C major 9 has kind of a 1 functionality, okay? And it has a major 9th interval in there, but the most important thing is it has a major 7th interval from the root to the 7th. It uses the 1st and the 7th degree of the scale, okay? A dominant chord uses the 1st and the flat 7th degree of the scale. And that really just makes it a 5, usually a 5 chord of something in another key. So remember that C major 7 and C9 totally different, and C major 9 is the same as the upper structure of E minor 7. The other one is A minor, you know, which has the same notes as C6. So again, without the dominant sound, it maintains its 1 quality. C, E, G, and then A. Okay, so you can find fingerings for those notes, you know, but no, it's just some inversion of A minor. And you can substitute the 1 for the 6, or the C6 for 1, and see how it sounds. In the right context, it works out. It's really the same notes in A minor 7. Pardon me. So we have a 1, which you have a C6, you have a C major 9, a C major 7, and you can interchange it with an E minor 7, an E minor, and the A minor is the same as C6. So it's just adding different notes, pardon me, to 1. The other variation of a 1, you can have a C6-9, which still functions as so it's a C6th with an add 9, like you add this other note from the other chord there. So you have a C, E, G, A, and then you add a D. And it gives you kind of an interesting sound. C, E, A, and I substitute the 5, the 6 for the 5. on this here. So C6-9. That's without the third. This is with the third. So, you know, you can mess with that. C9-6. Some people call it C9-6. Some people call it C6-9. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you hear it on the end like that. So that's kind of a nice thing. So, okay, so next up we'll do dominant substitutions. And for G7, when we have 2-5, we're going to talk about D minor, G7, C7, and then what are some other ways to get to C, which is a dominant substitution. Some people call it a tritone substitution, I guess, you know. But we'll talk about that in the next one because that might get a little bit involved with all the variations of that. So anyway, I hope this clarified the C7 sus, C11. Just remember, move the 3 to 4, and then sometimes it goes back to 3. A triad on top of a bass note, that usually functions as 5. C9, C13. Oh, I guess I should mention C9. You can have C7 flat 9. It's just lower the ninth. That's all. Make it deep. Instead of D, instead of 9 notes up on the C7 Mixolydian scale, is just make it flat 9. If you want a sharp 9, you just put a sharp in it. So D sharp, right? Same with 13. Flat 13. Okay? C7 flat 13. You could call it sharp 5 too. C7 sharp 5. Okay. Some people will argue, it's kind of a funny argument I think, is that if it's called C7 sharp 5, it'll take the whole tone scale. If it's C7 flat 13, it takes an altered chord scale. I guess we could talk about that. You know, it's kind of fun to talk about, but really the functionality is just what does it sound like and what are the notes that are in it. So anyway, it doesn't really matter what you call it. Is sharp 5 or flat 13 is give the composer, whoever wrote the tune or whoever you're backing up, the notes that they want to hear. So anyway, I think I covered. That's pretty much all the variations. Oh, minor, I guess. Yeah, you know, I don't think I made minor. You can do the same thing with minor. So C9 and then C minor ninth. Just lower the third. Remember, lower the third of a major chord. You get a minor. So if you lower E to E flat, you get a C minor 9. Okay, I guess I did miss a couple of them. C minor 9. C minor 7 is just a regular chord. C minor 9. You could have a C minor 13. Kind of a weird sound. One you'll see a little bit more often is a C minor 6, which doesn't have the 7th in it. So I should probably write that one out. A minor 6th / minor 6th would be C, E flat, G, and then A natural. So, and it's based on harmonic minor, obviously. And G minor 6 would be this. G, B flat, D, and E natural. Okay, it kind of sounds like a 9th chord. Well, because it has a lot of the same notes. So there you have it. I think I covered all the variations, and you just add sharps and flats to the name of the chord, or lower one note and rename it as such. And you know, if you have any questions about this before we get into the chord substitutions, let me know. So, all right, thanks a lot. Hope that helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe and write a comment. It helps us. I need subscribers.